Alright, let's convert the Predator 9500 to Tri-Fuel. Welcome to my channel. My name is Andy. I'm the owner of GRENERGY. Here I'm going to showcase the kits that are laid out here and the options as you go on our website of what to choose from. So here's our fully loaded kit with a 3-way valve. I'll lay that out in a minute. This is our budget kit for folks that don't need anything that fancy. They just want to get up and running without too much cost. And this is just an example of our competitor compared to what you'll be getting, and hence the reason why we price our kits a certain way. Okay, so I'm gonna make this introduction a little short because I know you guys want to start installing the kits. If you want more information about the Predator 9500 testing, wattage output for it being run on propane and natural gas, we'll do that in another video. Today is just the install video and a brief overview of our kits and what are the options listed on our website. Okay, so right now these are the basic tools that we'll need. I made this kit where you do not have to drill, cut, or modify anything. I want it as simple as using hand tools, simple hand tools to install the kit. And I want to make it as easy as possible. So this video is going to be a little bit long for the install, but it's detailed down to every nut and bolt. Okay, so this is what you're going to need. You're going to need 1/4 inch socket set with the ratchet, the extensions that go along with it. Okay, you're going to need long screwdriver. This is going to be used as a pry tool. All right, long Phillips or flathead screwdriver. This is my personal favorite. Okay, electric drill bit or electric driver, millimeter wrench set, nice lighting. Okay, pliers with the flat nose, and the other one is going to be the pipe pliers. Right, this is going to be used to remove the carb studs because it's going to be stuck on there, and this is good to remove those, or you can get vice grips. Okay, so the lighting that I like is the ones that with the magnetic bottom. Makes it more convenient to work on because we'll be digging pretty far in this generator. Okay, all right, this is the kit's laid out. This is the fully loaded kit with 3-way valve. This is the essential kit, basically bare bones. And here are competitors' kits. Theirs is priced right around $200. Ours starts at $300 plus. Okay, so you can see ours is pre-assembled. Theirs is not. You're gonna have to do some assembly, and this is what you get essentially. Okay, and so before I get too far, this is the bulk of the cost that you're paying for is a machined fuel adapter, and theirs is 3D printed. Okay, and this is our feeler gauge, and this is used to adjust for altitude. And if you don't have the 3-way valve, you can adjust between propane and natural gas pretty quick. Okay, so it's just, as you can see, you butt up against there, you do the adjustment for fuel, you lock the jam nut down, and there you're set for propane or natural gas, so on the fly. Okay, these are all pre-settings that you can do on there without any further guesswork. Okay. Numbers here represent altitude. 1 is good for sea level, 2 is at 5,000. Okay, 3 is at 7,500, and 4 is 9,000 feet and above. Okay, and this is for either for propane and natural gas. So right here, if you want to adjust for 5,000 feet above sea level using propane, you do it right at number 2 on this side of the adjustment. If you're on natural gas, you're at 5,000 feet above sea level, you do it on this side of the adjustment. Okay, so main difference between the essential and this kit is obviously the hose. Okay, hose length. Ours, this side mounts on the propane tank, whereas this doesn't. Okay, so when you screw this into the propane bottle, this just rests against the shoulder of the propane tank, and it sits upright. Whereas that bracket is a standalone upright bracket. Okay, there's a quick connect. This one we just use flare fittings. Okay, we have a front mount bracket for the quick connect. essentially mounts on that side, and you can plug in the fuel inlet right at the front of the generator, whereas this is going to be off on the side right over here where this oil fill is. It's just going to be stuck out right there, and that's done for cost savings. I sold a few kits for folks that just only need the bare essentials, and there's folks that just tell me, hey, I want everything. That's fine. Okay, so here are the hardware, nicely laid out, all packaged up. In here are the fuel adapters, okay? And this is the replacement to Airbox, and this is cut out right here for clearance because inside of this generator it's going to hit the inner wheel well without this cut out right here. You could cut the factory air cleaner, but you just replace mine. It's a lot easier. And this, I have the when I first purchased this 9500, it came with a metal airbox. The newer ones now have a lot easier access to the airbox and the air filter, and they're made out of plastic. So the newer Predator 9500s are a lot easier to access compared to the metal airbox. Okay, and I'll show that once I dig into this. But with this is a full replacement. Even if you have the new one, I do recommend that you use mine. I know these are going to be a little bit hard to get to, but I'll explain myself once I get into this generator and we install it. Okay, and they're not too terrible to get into. It's just a couple bolts right here. Panel lays over. The inverter unit's right there. 4 bolts. Lay it flat, and then right away you'll have access to the airbox. I made this very easy to get to the air filter. Once like I said, once the install is done, I'll show you. It's not that hard. It's pretty simple actually. Okay. So for this is propane and natural gas. This is just propane with the bare essentials. Okay, just propane. On this right here, it's a 3-way valve, so you can switch between propane and natural gas on the fly. Okay, very easy, and the hose splits off and it goes into the generator. Or my other kits, you don't have to have a 3-way valve. I only recommend it if you go back and forth between natural gas and propane. If you're mainly running natural gas, if you're mainly running propane, there's really no need to spend extra for this. If you want to go fancy, you're more than welcome to have that, but it's not needed. You do not have to have it. Okay. So I'm going to make a note here. To run on propane, here's your propane regulator. So primary regulator, secondary regulator. The proper name for that is the demand regulator. All right, guys, I'm going to back up a little bit. I get a lot of confusion from folks when I say regulator. They think that this is a regulator, that's a regulator. Yes, it's true. But just like first and last names, this is a pressure regulator, demand regulator. So I have to essentially call this the primary and secondary. That's not the right way of doing it, but people seem to understand a lot better. So now I'm going to have to explain in this video to further clarify that this is called a pressure regulator and demand regulator. I'm going to constantly repeat this because I feel like I have to when I get phone calls. Okay, so this is only used for propane. For natural gas, it's not needed because it's already regulated down to the correct pressure at the meter. Okay, so here's the regulator. You screw into a propane tank. This hose, okay, connects to here for propane. When you want to go to natural gas, here's the natural gas outlet. Tee that at the meter at your house and use this and plug it in there. Okay, this is an example. Propane, natural gas, propane, natural gas. All right. So now you're gonna say, why isn't this hose on that side of the regulator? That's the output. This side is the input. Divide that regulator in half. Input, the gas goes into the demand regulator. Output. This whole assembly is not called the input side. People assume that, okay, this whole hose inputs into the generator. No. That hose assembly has an input and output. Input, propane, natural gas goes in, gets regulated, outputs to the generator. Okay, I'm going to say this again because I have to say it again. Input side, output side. Okay, we do not lengthen the hose on the output side. This has to stay 3 feet. This side is where the length of hose is added. Okay, so from here is 10 feet. If we want to go more than that, we're going to have to go 1/2 inch inside diameter. Right now we're at 10 feet 3/8 inside diameter. Any longer than that has to be 1/2 inch inside diameter. Why? If you go longer on this hose with a smaller inside diameter, you're going to reduce volume of fuel flow. Okay, you don't want that to become a restriction. All right, so 10 feet's on here, 3 feet's on here. From end to end is 13 feet total. Okay, like I said, input side, input, output. Okay, just like how it says on the regulator. See, it says outlet, output. Here is input, in. See the arrow? It says in, out. Okay. All right. We're going to go ahead and do the install. I'm going to be using these parts on this generator, and at the end I'm going to fire it up for you guys, and I'm going to show you how I connect mine to up to a propane tank or natural gas, and on this kit I'll show you how it connects to just a propane tank. All right, let's get started. First, we're going to remove the outside bolts on the generator. We're going to lift this handle up because we're going to have access to that front panel there and to the bolts. So screws here needs to come out. Remove that. This does not need to be removed. So you have screws here. All right, all needs to be removed. Be careful, there are clips down there, so you want to pry from the bottom first. Okay, gently pry from the bottom and lift up. And we're going to remove this whole panel here. And this cover, outside cover, needs to be removed. So there's screws here, and you're going to be putting an extension through here. And there's a bolt right here, okay? And you're going to need to take that out as well. To make quick work of things, I'll use this electric impact. And on here, you're going to have a 8mm shallow socket, okay? I would take my magnetic tool here, you don't have to, and with a bucket throw all your bolts in there, so that way you don't lose anything. Makes it easier to pick up the bolts that are inside the holes here. Also, do note that some of the bolts being removed, there are, I think only a few of them are different lengths. This Predator unit that I have is refurbished, so when I got this generator, the bolts were all mix matched, so I don't even know who worked on it. They didn't put the bolts in correctly. The length of the bolts, they were sized the same, but the lengths were different. So I can't tell you guys which length goes to which, but I'll show you. I believe some of them are here. Are a bit of a different length. I'm gonna have to take out a few here. Oh, so far they're all the same, but probably if I dig in a little bit more, they're a little bit different. Okay, we'll go ahead and start taking more of these off. Remember when I told you that there are bolts behind this wheel bracket here? So I have on here my electric impact. On the end of it, I have my 10mm shallow socket with a 3-inch, 1/4-inch extension. Go ahead and go into this access point right here. There's one. There's one right behind here. And it's kind of hard to see it, but there you go. That needs to come out as well. And this right here needs to come out as well. Don't lose your bolts. Right? Notice that for the wheel, lengths are different. Okay, you gotta watch out for that. So the two longer ones go in here and in this here, and the center of the axle is a shorter one. Let's move that off on the side. There's this metal spacer. Put that in the bucket. Go ahead and put this in the bucket as well. And this wheel, move it out. It's about the edge right here. Don't take it off completely, because you don't need to remove it completely. You can if you want, if you put some wood at the bottom to prop up the generator, but I find it easier if you just slip the wheel out a little bit up to this point. Just be careful not to shift the generator too much, or else it'll fall on the floor and lean on you. Alright, I'm going to take this rubber plug off, put it in here, take my panels and put it off to one side. Alright, this one right here, as I mentioned, there's a little grab handle on the bottom, or a cavity you can pull up on. Just be gentle with it. Probably make sure you double check that all the screws are out. I forgot to take this one out, so there you go. The clip probably fell off, but that's okay. Just pick it up, put it back here. That's where mine fell off. You might have to squeeze the spring clip a little bit more so it goes back in here. Go ahead and take the panel, put it off on the side. Now you're going to remove this bolt, okay? And mine was missing because I mentioned this was a refurbished model. You're supposed to have 4 of them, but I guess when this was refurbished, they replaced their inverter unit and didn't bother putting in the 2 lower bolts. But alright, we're going to go ahead and remove that. Quick note, when you do remove all 4 bolts, hold on to the inverter unit. Don't let it fall, okay? You don't want it slamming on the ground. This is very expensive, so you need to be gentle with it. Once you take all 4 bolts out, just gently set it on the ground. You don't want to damage it. And there's your inverter unit. Now you're going to take off that 1 bolt here. This plastic cover. Yep, you see all set. This is, from here, a longer bolt. As you can tell, just keep track of where all the longer bolts are. Okay? Slightly longer. And you put it back in the same place. Take this cover, scoot it out, pull things back a little bit. You can take this cover, this fan shroud a little bit further out. Now you have access to the airbox here. Take your light. I like to put mine right here. Now you got real good lighting to work on. And this cover right here, you don't need to take it off completely. I just loosen it up. Now I can get in between here without taking it all off. And remember, I mentioned that the bearing just sits right on the lip of that axle, so that way you can push this cover out a little bit. Okay, now the fun part of taking out that airbox. Alright, we've gotten this far, and a lot of you are going to have the plastic airbox, and you're going to say, wait a minute, my airbox doesn't look like yours. Why am I taking this whole thing apart? Well, because what I'll be giving you is going to be a replacement airbox, and we have to have all these panels open so we can fit this in there. And why didn't I make a fuel adapter that is compatible with plastic airboxes? Because the ones that go for the metal airbox and the plastic ones are different. I don't have the plastic ones to show you, but if you notice on yours, if yours has the plastic airbox, it has this nipple on the side of it, right about here, right around this area, and the fuel adapter doesn't clear that. So I would have to make a one-off fuel adapter for that generator specifically with that specific plastic airbox. And at the moment, it's not quite cost effective, and it's going to be fairly difficult to go around. I know this is the metal one, I don't have the plastic one, okay? On yours, if yours is plastic, I'd rather not have you cut up your airbox when installing our fuel adapter. Then essentially I can't advertise they'll be drill free, cut free, or modification free. I'd rather have things be bolt on and look factory. Okay, that's how I like doing stuff. I know it's a little bit of work, but once everything is installed, I promise you it looks just like factory, functions just like factory. And the spare parts that you do have, just keep it off on the side somewhere in a spare parts bin, labeled Predator 9500. Okay, don't throw anything away once things are getting replaced. But I promise you, this airbox that I'll be giving you as a replacement is a lot better. I don't know, even though this is metal and this is metal, I don't like this metal airbox. I've realized that when they stamp this out, it's not straight. It's not quite flat like this. This is a little bit more of a premium aftermarket airbox. This is a little bit of a disappointment. Okay, I'm not sure why. I can see why Harbor Freight got so much flack for this this generator when it first came out. I guess they just did it. They just hodgepodged everything together. Didn't quite really think thoroughly about having access to the air filter. So, and when they did give customers this airbox assembly, in my opinion, it was trash. I'm just gonna flat out say that. So when you take this airbox out and you compare it to this side by side, you'll see what I mean. All right. So next step is we're gonna have to remove that battery, and we're gonna have to remove that battery because in this situation we're gonna have to have access to that bolt. I know my camera can't focus here. That bolt there. Okay. I believe if you do have the plastic airbox, you won't need to take the battery out, but just go along with me or skip ahead a little bit as I also accommodate folks who do have my kind of setup compared to others. All right, so this video is kind of a universal video, so if things don't make sense, just kind of skip a little bit and we'll move forward from there. All right, like I mentioned, if you have a plastic airbox assembly, you can kind of skip a little bit ahead in this video, but for those who do have the earlier 9500s with the metal airbox, the reason why we have to take this battery out is because, like I mentioned, we got to access that bolt, and in order to access that engine bolt, to remove this battery, and we're going to have to use this long screwdriver to go into the bottom side, I know it's kind of hard to see, of that engine, to pry up on it, so that way that bottom latch, it looks like this, that bottom latch will not unlatch. I'll get this to focus there. Will not latch unless this is lifted up, because when it goes up, it has to go up this far, and it can't do that because the bottom of the airbox is so close to the bottom of the generator. In order to have this be removed, we got to pry up the engine in order for this lever to swing the other way so you can remove the lid. It's kind of stupid, but we have to do it. All right. But luckily with the replacement airbox, you don't have to do that because it has screws on the side, so the lid goes on with screws. So, all right, so make sure the generator is off. Okay, switched off. Go ahead and remove the battery here. So I have 10 mil on a ratchet here. And on the other side, I'm going to hold that nut down so I can take the battery off. And when you do take this nut off, there are screws in the lock washer. Don't lose that. All right, I'm going to go ahead and take this off. All right, took terminals off. I opted to leave the nut on here. You don't have to. I left it on there because I know these things will roll around and hide itself somewhere, and it's going to be impossible to find. So by leaving it on here, you know you're not going to lose it. Okay, once that's off, take this rubber strap and just pull it towards you. And it should come off. It's latched on the side. That side comes off as well. And go ahead and take the battery out. Make sure that you don't touch these two terminals with tools, or else you get a nice arc going across each terminal. You don't want that. So here's that nut I was talking about right here. And now you have better access to the vibration bracket here when you take out the battery. All right. On the plastic airbox, you can leave the vibration bracket here. The metal replacement airbox I'll be giving to you will not fit the plastic vibration bracket for the plastic airbox, so you can just leave that be. Whereas if you have this metal one, we can reuse this bracket. Don't worry if we are not reusing the vibration bracket that is on the generator with the plastic airbox. We have nuts and lock washers that would be installing right on the carb studs to prevent it from this piece from vibrating. The reason why this is here so that everything doesn't vibrate and the two screws that are going on the studs doesn't back itself out. But I'll show you when we get this far that I have found a solution for it. So don't freak out if you can't reuse this bracket. If you do have a plastic airbox assembly, I do have a solution for that. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and loosen that. I know my camera's not focusing that good, but sorry for that. I have a 14mm wrench. We'll go ahead and unscrew that. I would take it completely out, and go ahead and loosen this with a 10mm nut. Take that off as well. Okay, go ahead and I'm gonna skip forward and take that out. All right, the bracket's off, the nut's off here. I laid it out on the side here. You can go ahead and put it in that bin over there, but I'm gonna set it aside right here a little bit. So from this side of the generator, I'm gonna take my long Phillips flathead, and I'm gonna sneak it in here and come out this side, and I'm gonna wedge the flathead of the screwdriver here and pry on the engine. Oops, I'm trying to focus here. See how I'm lifting it up? Going between the engine mount and the base of the engine. Okay, and go ahead and squeeze yourself in there. Just wiggle. Yes, I'll get closer here for you. It's hard to see. I can see it, but as you go underneath the base of that engine, now you can lift it up. When you lift up this engine, now you have room to take off this latch. Okay. Also, I should mention, this stupid nut has to come out. Stupid bolt has to come out. All right, because if you don't, that's in the way. Really, really stupid design. So I'm gonna go ahead and take that off. I believe it's a. Let's see here what size this is. Okay, 12, 10. Excuse me here. Oh. And it looks like a 10. So I'm gonna take that off with a 10 socket or wrench. It's gonna be probably better that I use a wrench. It's pretty tight in there. Go ahead and take that off. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and take that off. Well, I lied. This needs to come off, and right here is an 8mm bolt. It needs to come off, so get your 8mm wrench. Coming from this side or the other side, whichever is easiest. Take off that bolt and swing this, I'm not sure what this is, swing this off on the side, and you should be able to take that cover out, because without this, it's just hard for this cover to squeeze through and be removed. So I'm gonna go ahead and take that off. Okay, that's removed. This bolt is unique to this location. This is really short compared to the bolts that were used to bolt on the cover, all right? So don't mix this bolt with the other ones. This goes right here. If you want, you can just put it back in that hole so you don't forget, right? So now I can take the cover out. It's caught in the bottom somewhere. Tell me what a pain in the ass that is. Finally, that comes out. Now you can, there are 8mm nuts on here around the airbox. That needs to come out. Okay. Go ahead, so that way this can come out. I'm gonna go ahead and do that. All right, I got them out. There's 5 of them. There's actually 6. I lost one, so it rolled somewhere. But once these nuts are out, you go ahead and pull that cover off. And now you can have access to the 10mm. Yep, 10mm nuts right here. This needs to be removed. This hose needs to be removed. And this lower hose needs to be removed as well. A 10mm shallow socket. Go ahead and remove that. And go ahead and do that on the other side as well. You'll also notice that there's a hook right here, and there's supposed to be a grommet. There it is. This grommet right here, that goes in this holder right here. Okay. Make sure you pop that off. This is the gas line going in the car. Just pop that off. Don't forget to do that. And this whole airbox, the other portion of the airbox assembly will come right out. Then take this off. You don't need this anymore. Leave that on the side. And this choke bracket with cable. Get a Phillips head and unscrew that. This should come out. Or you can probably leave it off on the side here. Oh, don't forget this gasket. Don't rip the gasket as well, okay? Well, I guess you can leave that choke plate with the cable on there. Seems to be doing okay. Yeah, just leave it on. You don't have to take that off. I took it off before, but looks like it's not needed. So now you have the studs. And make sure that the gasket is in good condition when you take it off. Right, you don't want to rip that. If you do, I got replacements for you. But very rarely these things go bad. Just be gentle with everything. Okay. So now to remove these studs, I take my pliers here, or you can take vice grips and just go on this end and just twist them all the way off until they're loose. Do one side at a time, okay? Because there's a gasket back behind here, and you don't want to lose that, okay? Because if you take one at a time, take one off at a time, you can go ahead and replace this one, and that way you don't have this one falling off and having to realign it when you put your new studs in. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the new studs. All right, got one side of the carb stud out, and on here you'll see that the gasket stuck on there is still in good condition. This is what I mean by not losing that gasket. If you don't line this back when it's installed, you have a huge vacuum leak and the generator will surge like crazy once you try getting it started. Okay, so here are the new studs. Okay, go ahead and put, whoops, I don't want to drop that. I'll grab the other one. Go ahead and install it in there. Do it by hand. Feel it first. Don't just go in there and start cranking on it. Just take your time, put in there, make sure the threads catch and that it goes in smoothly. When you remove the other studs, all right, whoops, I'm trying to use my tool here. When you loosen it, just rock it back and forth gently to break loose. Don't just reef on it right away. You'll pull the threads right out of the head. You want to take your time, be gentle with it, and feel for it. Don't be in a mad rush on doing any of this. The last thing you want to do is have broken parts, stripped out holes, and having to go back in and chase it with, you know, a thread chaser. You don't want to do all that. Just take your time, okay? I'm going to go ahead, put the new studs in. Make sure there's a gasket here. There has to be a gasket here as well. Here's a tip. If you guys don't want to sit there and slowly crank on that or wait for it to come out, you can double nut the threads here, tighten it, and then now you can use your wrench to back it out. And you can do the same thing when you're installing the new studs as well too. Finger tight. You want to make sure that goes in smooth. If it starts catching or feels like you're forcing it to go in, stop what you're doing. Check the threads. I use a compressed air with a straw tip. I go in the hole, blow out the hole. It could be some kind of blockage or some sort of debris that's preventing you from screwing these carb studs all the way. Once you get it bottomed out by hand, you can go ahead and double nut the studs here. This is annoyingly in the way. What I mean is I take this, have one flange out towards you and the other flange butt up against the other. Okay. Put your wrench here, and then with your socket here together, tighten it. Now you have leverage to tighten these two studs. When you tighten them, go in about 1/8 of a turn. You don't have to reef on them, okay? So when you're in 1/8 of a turn, that's it. You don't have to crank hard on them. If you constantly reef on it and tighten it and tighten it and tighten it, you'll pull the threads right out of the head. You don't want that. Like I mentioned, go in 1/8 of a turn. Okay, here, 1/8 of a turn. That's all you need. All right, let me show that again. Here, bottoms out, right? 1/8 of a turn, good enough. Okay, don't mind me going over this again, like, because I constantly get people who are a little nervous about this. Okay, so double nut. Okay. Sorry if I'm repeating this. I have to because I get so many questions at this on this portion of the video. Tighten it down, okay, with your wrench and socket. Go in, okay. When you start tightening it, feel for it first until it stops. Just 2 fingers. So when you're in here, you feel like, okay, all right, it stops right about there. As you're tightening it, when it stops right about here, 1/8 of a turn after that. Okay? I'm going to say it again. Tighten it down, okay, with your tool. And with only 2 fingers, just see where the stud stops. All right? When it stops, you know it's bottomed out. Once it's bottomed out, 1/8 of a turn. That's it. Okay? Bottomed out, 1/8 of a turn. All right. Now go ahead and take that off. Make sure that there's a gasket here. Okay, so there has to be a gasket in every mating surface. Gasket here, gasket here. Okay, and there's not supposed to be another. And after this, the carb goes back on, and then between the carb and the choke plate, there's supposed to be a gasket there. All right, quick note, the gaskets that are in between each mating surfaces are different. Okay, see the bottom and the top one is different. This one with the little tiny hole on the upper right hand corner goes in this way, and it mates up with the plastic. It looks like an isolator for the carb. Okay, don't put this in here, and don't put that in the wrong spot, or else you have a huge vacuum leak. Okay, when you take stuff out, just keep track of it all. Okay, after you put everything back, make sure that the spark plug wire lines up with the two guides here. Okay, it's supposed to be like this. Get the better view of that. There you go. Once that's all set in there, looks like my flashlight's dying now. I gotta get a new battery. And go ahead and put the gaskets in here. All right, gaskets in. Like I said, make sure that hole is on the upper right hand corner. So you know what? If that's in that orientation, you know the gasket's in the right orientation. Go ahead and put the carb back, slip that on. Oops. Once that's on, take the gasket that's supposed to go in here. Go ahead and put it in there like so. Make sure you're not double gasketing there. There, that's great. And go in your packet. I'm gonna have to make note of this. There are two gaskets. One paper gasket, one foam gasket. This paper gasket goes here. Sorry. That hole needs to be on that side of the carburetor, okay? Correct orientation. So you have a gasket there, gasket here, and here. Now you can take your fuel adapter and put it in here. So I'm going to take this out of the packet and put it in there. All right. Make sure she's clean. Make sure there's the gaskets on there. And go ahead and install the fuel adapter. And then take your foam gasket. Remember that corner I mentioned? Upper right hand corner. And now you can go ahead and put your airbox in, the new airbox. Right, in the kit, remove the new airbox assembly. Go ahead and remove the Phillips screw and a thumb screw here. All right. When you have the thumb screws and the screws out, just double check to make sure that the holes here are lined up, all four of them. The reason why I say that is because when this is installed in the generator, if any of them are off, just for an example like this, you're going to have a hard time putting that screw back in. And you got to make sure all four of them are lined up. If they're not, just get a rubber mallet and just kind of tweak these. Just kind of hit it from the side or however you'd like to do to adjust them back. So that way all four holes line up with the cover. I've already done that for you, but if anything happens, just if you find that it's not perfectly straight down in that hole, go ahead and do so. And the reason why I asked you to double check is because these studs are riveted on the steel plate, and they're not always on perfectly straight, but it's just good to double check. All right, and go ahead and remove these standoffs and the screws down here. Okay, I went ahead and separated everything, set these off on the side. You will have washers that are on here. Try not to lose them. If you lose them, it's not the end of the world. You can still install them without them. But the reason why I have them on here is that when these stand-ups are screwed on, then they lay nice and flat against there. Just makes them install a lot more evenly. Okay. Now we'll go ahead and put the covers on, and then after the cover is on, we're gonna go ahead and put the two 10mm nuts on here. And the ones that we're gonna be putting on are gonna be they're gonna have split lock washers on them. Okay, they're gonna put tension on that nut against the stud so that they don't vibrate loose, and the nuts itself have nylon inserts. Okay, so they won't back out easily, and that's what you need on there. So it's kind of overkill to have split lock washers and nylon insert nuts, but it's just good preventive measure. All right, I have washers on there right now, and then the split washers go over that. And then go ahead and put in your nylon insert nuts. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. Don't tighten these all the way down just yet. Have them a little bit loose, because we're gonna have to install this anti-vibration bracket if you have one on the generator and is compatible with the metal airbox. Plastic airbox, just ignore this. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and remove this flathead screwdriver. Put this bracket. Well, don't forget the nut that I've included in here. We'll take that out. Put the bracket in there. And here in your kit, there's a spacer. Oh, go ahead and put that spacer in here. Remember that nut you put on set aside? Go ahead and put that in here. Get a couple threads started on this. Might want to shake the engine a little bit to get it to settle back down. If you can't get it all the way down, it's okay. As soon as you tighten that nut, it's going to go back down anyways. Okay? We're going to take this, put that back. Sorry if you can't get a good view of this. I'm working with as best I can on the floor. All right, I'm going to go ahead and tighten that down and tighten this down and get this base of the engine settled down on that engine mount. So I'm going to go ahead, after this is settled down, go ahead and tighten that and tighten that. All right, what I did was I tightened this down first, and after this is tightened down first, this lined up. And I went ahead and tightened that. Okay, and then lastly I tightened these two. Now it's solid. It's not going to move at all. If you have a hard time trying to get that grab a couple threads and putting a nut back on this motor mount. Sorry, it's a little blurry. Just go ahead and take your flathead screwdriver and stick it underneath the base of the engine like this and rock the engine back and forth, and that stud will fall right back into that hole, and then it makes it a lot easier to install that nut back on. Right? You just go like this, and it'll fall right back in. All right, take the inner cover and go ahead and slip that through. Make sure that the washers, like I mentioned here, are still on there. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and skip forward and do that, and then we're gonna go ahead and put this back in, and the washer and then the 8mm nuts go on the bottom of this cover. Okay, I noticed that when you're putting in that bottom nut there, one side's easier to get to and the other side is a little bit harder to get to. Right here, okay, that bottom left hand corner, I would pull this panel back a little bit, get all your extensions, and then go ahead and fish your extension through here. You see where my socket is? Line up to where that bolt is. Now you can tighten it without having to squeeze your fingers in between that limited space here, trying to tighten that bolt. Just use your extension and tool to reach in there. To tighten your standoffs here, just get your ratchet, the socket, go ahead, come in from this side, right on over, and tighten, okay? A lot easier. And you can get all 4 of them with not too much effort, okay? After that, we're gonna put the cover on. Take your cover, go ahead and make sure the filter is on as well too, so don't forget that you're gonna need a filter, so always double check that the filter is on here, okay? Go ahead and put the covers on. Can't really do this one-handed, but I'm gonna go ahead and do that right now. All right, another tip when installing this cover on, put on the 2 thumb nuts on first on this side and leave them loose, and then the Phillips screws go on the right side, okay? The reason why I say leave them loose is because if you tighten them, it's gonna be hard to line up the holes with the threads on the cover if you tighten this side. So leave them loose. That way you have enough wiggle room where you can wiggle the cover around and look into the hole here. Make sure that the threads are lined up here. Once you line up, go ahead and put in the 3rd screw on the bottom right hand side. Then last one to put will be up here, so that way it goes on a lot easier. I know it's a little tight going in, but it works out and it just clears, as you can tell. Just clears the cover, okay? So once this is all put in, you go ahead and tighten that side, and then to tighten here, you can either try to tighten with your hand. If you want to get that last bit to tighten it, just go ahead and get some pliers, and you can go in here and just snug them up. Don't crank them down hard, you'll crack the plastic. Just make sure they're nice and snug, and you should be all set. Now we're gonna go ahead and connect back our crankcase ventilation pipes and the evap. So I went ahead and got the T, put this in here. I just left this hose clamp loose in here because you don't really need it once you use this T, so I just leave it loose. Then go ahead and grab the new breather hose, take this off and cut down the middle over here, so that way you can tee in to everything within the hose here. Okay, so just save all your factory stuff. The reason why I give you this is because I don't want you cutting up your factory ones, just in case if you need to remove the kit, at least you have this hose, because it's not easy finding this hose. You can cut up the one that I gave you. All right, go ahead and do that. All right, I got the hose off. So here's the factory one and here's mine. Take this spring clip and shrink it. So just get some pliers and put some more tension on it by shrinking the spring clip, right? Then go ahead and put that on here, because I've noticed that with this hose, it's a little bit loose compared to the factory unit. So making that spring a little bit more tighter will actually keep that hose on a little bit better. Also, when I took this off, this was dripping with oil. I went and grabbed some alcohol, cleaned this up, so that way the hose sticks onto there a lot better than just slipping off, because I think it was full of oil. All right, this is how I have my hose set up. I tucked the fuel line behind the breather hose here, and I installed this twist tie still in here, but you have to make sure that it's not in the way of the choke lever, okay? So just tuck it in behind like this. And to make this fit better, I cut about 3/8 of an inch off this hose, so it won't kink up, and it actually is a little bit more straighter and it looks a little bit better. Still use the clamp here. Spark plug goes underneath this hose here, and overall it should be set just like this. To make this install a little bit easier, I know it's really tight putting this T in. I would grab some hand soap, put a little bit of hand soap on the fitting here, and then the hose should slide in a lot easier. All right, And also don't forget this this bracket over here that holds the gas hose here. You can bend it a little bit to fit this grommet in here with the hose. I know it's a little tight, but you can still put it on. If you don't want to put it back on, you don't have to, but I like leaving it on here so that way this hose doesn't chafe on anything and cause potential leak if the hose was to rub on something. So putting this back is ideal. You don't have to, but I recommend it, right? If it's a pain in the butt to put that in there. I know I had a hard time, but all I did was I grabbed a little bit of hand soap, lubed this grommet up a little bit, and it slipped right in. So, all right, we're gonna go ahead and put the hose on the other side. Oh, before that, let's put the battery back. And this too, so we'll go ahead and put the battery back. Right, quick note on putting this battery strap back on. I would put the hook the straps on to the bracket here on the side. Don't put the terminals on yet. And then go ahead and stretch this strap right over the battery. It's a lot easier than to hook one of the straps on the side and try pulling it over onto the other and hook it on here. It's not easy. It's really, really tight. So just put the straps on the loops on both sides, and then go ahead and just kind of pry the strap right over the battery, and then go ahead and put the terminals on. We're almost done. All right. Next step is the hose. Okay. So you have here the hose with quick connect and bracket, and this is just a hose with the SAE flare. So this comes from the kit that's basically essential kit, and this is the fully loaded kit. All right. But they both install the same. So whichever hose you have, take that in, take this in, and you want to thread it through this hole here. Bring it through the generator. Oh, excuse me, I'm stepping on stuff. Has to come right underneath the recoil start, okay, and behind the airbox, and snakes through here, okay. See if you can see all the way through. You see that red cover? That's the recoil start. Has to come underneath that bracket right here, okay. Then comes up and attaches to the barb fitting. All right, so you want to make sure that it's tucked underneath this wiring room right here, and that nothing gets snagged. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and do that. All right, this is an example of the bare essential kit. The fittings is just gonna sit like this. You put the cover on, that's it. And then you just, when you want to use a generator, you just screw into that flare fitting and you're all set. It's tucked away, nice and neat. It's not expensive, and it just gets you up and going. You don't have to have this hose, but if you like to have it, it will mount up in front of here, and it will show you how it gets mounted. All right, so this is just there to showcase for the folks that do have this kit how it's supposed to be. Got the hose installed, took off masking tape that's covering this end here, grabbed my pliers, pinched the spring clip, brought the spring clip up. I have it offset to this side so that way the spring clip doesn't rub up against the cover. All right, and here's how I have the hose routed. Like I mentioned, behind the airbox, right across the engine harness here, and right out the other side. And in your kit, you should also have spacers and bolts, and this is going to be used to bolt on the bracket to the front portion of the generator. All right, so now we're going to put back the fan shroud, the inverter. All right, when you do tuck in the wires back, make sure that nothing gets snagged. Okay, so just kind of tuck it off on the side as you're putting things back. Okay, and don't forget to bolt this little module back on here. So there's an 8mm bolt. It's easier to get through this side with your wrench and tighten that. Okay, then we're gonna go ahead and put the panels back on this side and in the front. don't forget to start out by putting that bolt to the top portion. Remember, keep track of the different length of bolts and where they're supposed to belong to. Don't mix and match them. Okay. Fan shroud goes on. That goes on because it holds this fan shroud. Then after that, you can go ahead and lift and put the inverter unit back in this cavity. So when you do service the air filter, I know it's going to be a little bit of a pain to get to, but all it is just 8 bolts in the front, 4 bolts here and 1 extra here, and this comes back down. Okay, and you can service the air filter. If you run this generator on a clean surface like this, okay, rather than on dirt or in grass, more than likely that air filter will always stay clean and you don't always have to constantly service it. Okay, I've never had to service this air filter. I put hours on my generator for testing. A lot of them come back clean. It's because I run them here in my shop and it's always clean. I always sweep the floor so that I don't worry about the inside of the generator getting dusty. Okay, but at the same time as you're servicing the air filter, it's always good to overlook the back side of the inverter unit. Okay, and what you're looking for is that these caps are not bloated, they're not swollen up, they're not cracked, there's no heat marks or anywhere else here. If there is, then that's not a good sign and the inverter is going to fail. This is not corroded, these wires are not melted, so it's good to kind of overlook all this, because a lot of times these inverters will fail and they're not waterproof or anything like that. So if you run them out in the rain and you have water splashing at the floor right here and it's being sucked into the generator, what is it going to be hitting first? This inverter unit is going to get soaked. So don't ever run these out in the rain. Have it underneath some kind of sheltering system or in your pole barn that's vented and everything else. Okay, don't run them outside where it's going to be soaking wet. And this is the reason why I say that, is because none of this component is waterproof. Okay, make sure there's no corrosion on here. And sometimes rodents like to make the nest in here, especially around this area. It gives you a great opportunity as you're servicing the air filter to inspect your whole equipment. Sometimes rodents like to chew on these wires. A lot of times the insulation on the wires are made out of cornstarch, and that's why rodents like to chew on them. So when you're inspecting all this, you're making sure to see that nothing gets damaged by rodents, corrosion, or anything else. If you see some of these caps are bloated because they're filled with electrolytes, then, and if you do have warranty with Harbor Freight, go ahead and turn in, show them the photo. If they ask you why you're digging in the generator, just tell them I'm here to service, my generator. I double check everything. I want to make sure nothing's living inside, and not only that, I just want to make sure that nothing's corroded back here. So that's what you can tell them, all right? Or you can just show them a photo of it being bloated, and you can tell them, hey, there are symptoms of this generator failing, and a lot of times you can just look behind here and it'll show itself if it fails. So it's good to inspect all this, and it doesn't hurt too. Okay. All right, I got all the panels all back on. All access panel, front panel, and side panel. Now we got to put the wheel bracket back on. So remember when I said these bolts are a different length? This goes in the axle, this goes in the bracket that bolts onto the chassis. Don't forget to put your spacer back in here. And when you do put back the bracket, I would start off by putting the bolt right on the axle first. Okay, kind of hard doing this one-handed. All right, got this on. I left it loose. Okay, come in with your 10mm socket, 3/4 inch extension, ratchet, and go in by hand, because the bolts in there, I don't know if you can see that, it's not quite lined up, so you have to eyeball it on the inside to make sure that you're not cross-threading it. See if I can get some lighting in there. See that? Where it's not lined up in that hole. Sorry, it's not focusing. So you have to shift the bracket, and to do so, just use your flathead screwdriver to kind of pry it in there, and then by hand make sure that bolt goes into the hole. You don't want to strip that, okay? Same thing on this side. Might have to pry it on this bracket a little bit to get it all to line up, but it'll go in. Take your time, don't strip anything. All right, got the bolts in. I left this bottom portion really loose. How loose? That far loose. Then I was able to guide the bolt in on this side and this side. Now I can go in, once I get a couple threads started, I can go ahead and zip it in. This side as well. Make sure that side's tight. And then go ahead and do the bottom. Alright, you're all set. Great, we're here at the end. It's just this bracket now. If you don't have this, go ahead and skip the video. If you do have it, continue watching. We will want to remove the bolt here, here, and here. Right? 8mm, 8mm, 10. Go ahead and take those off. Leave the wheel on, just these bolts. Alright, got the two bolts out. This is loose. Go ahead and take this off. You will reuse this washer, so don't lose it. This, toss it off on the side. We won't be using that. In the packet, you'll have 3 spacers plus this ring, stainless steel ring. You want to put that right here, okay? And the reason why you want to put that there is because there is some play in the wheel. As the wheels start to roll, it just shifts back and forth. And because this bracket sits so close to the frame, you don't want the edge of that wheel to ride up against that bracket. So with this, it just keeps it all tucked away in there. Okay, and then after that, you're going to need this washer. And with that washer, you will be using this spacer, and it comes with an 8mm bolt. Okay. Excuse me, I don't think it's an 8mm. We're gonna have to use an Allen key here, but I'm gonna get my Allen socket set to install this. So the bracket will go on. This goes here. This, okay, goes towards the front, and this goes here. So if you get this in the bag and then you notice that the bolts are all loose in the bag, just look closely. Okay, this short bolt goes with this spacer, this long bolt goes with that long spacer, and this stubby, thicker looking spacer goes with the bigger bolt. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and install that on there. I'm gonna get my Allen socket set. Got the bracket bolted on loosely. Got my Allen key set here, and it is in millimeters or metric. Left everything loose, put the spacers on, and do not forget that the washers here. So you have the regular flat washers, then you have the split lock washers here, and then the bolt. Okay, I essentially have this so that way it doesn't when the generator runs, it vibrates. These bolts don't back themselves out, so that's why I have this for vibration proof. So that way it's secure. Once it's bolted on, it's not going to go anywhere. Same thing on the bottom. All right, here, here, and here. I'm going to go ahead and tighten them up. Here's a tip when installing this bracket. First, tighten this bolt down here first. Secondly, do this one, and then third, this is will be the last to be tightened down, because that way when you do it in that order, the bracket is square with the generator. And when this is tightened before this, so tighten that one, tighten this one, hit the bracket in so that way it sits flush against the generator, then go ahead and tighten that. Now everything should be secure, so when you let down the handle, that quick connect is almost flush with the handle. See that? So that way it's not in the way. I love it right there. It's flush with that here. It doesn't stick out beyond this point. So however this is poking out, it's poking out just as much. Over time that hose will start to settle down. Right now it's stiff, that's why it's bowed out, but once the hose settles in, it'll rest up against the generator a little bit better. But overall it looks great. And now take this off. The reason why I have this at a 45-degree angle is for ergonomics, so that way you can put your hand on top of this generator and with your right hand come in with your quick connect. I know I'm doing it with my left hand, but you get the idea. I'm gonna go ahead with my right hand. Plug in the quick connect. You don't have to bend that far down to have it connected. Just like that. And then when you want to take it off, you don't have to bend that far down. Just your hand at a nice 45-degree angle. Pull back on that collar. Comes right off. And then when you're not using it, be sure to put the dust cap back. Keeps it nice and clean. You don't want that debris to be sucked up in the hose and going into your carburetor. So always cap off the ends on the quick connect. Alright, I hauled her outside, getting ready to test and show you the startup process of this. So at the moment we have it connected to a propane tank. Alright, so if you do purchase our fully loaded kit, you'll have propane and natural gas. The propane adapter will have the pressure regulator, and this is the demand regulator. Okay, they're separate. The pressure regulator is needed for the propane tank to step down the pressure to 0.5 psi for the demand regulator. The natural gas doesn't need it because it's already regulated at the meter. Okay, and here's where I tapped for natural gas. On here is our selector valve. On our essential kit, it won't have that. You don't have to have it. Okay, but this is just for folks who are interested in the three-way valve. You can select which fuel types you want. Right now it's at propane. Up is for natural gas. Whatever is written on the side right here is you just follow that, and this is where you do the fuel selection. Don't forget to switch over the valve appropriate to what fuel you're using. Okay, you have to make sure that you're using the correct fuel settings. So now we have it at propane. We're going to start up on propane. Before we do that, make sure the switch is set to run. All right, eco off first. Okay, turn on the propane tank. Do it slowly so that way you don't trip the check valve on the inside of this regulator. All right, it's turned on. I haven't warmed this up at all, so this is going to be my first start. So right now 50 degrees, so shows you that's still cold. We're going to hit the primer. We're going to hit 3 times. We're going to press it down for a couple seconds. Sometimes you may need to play with the prime button a little bit to get it just right upon startup. I hit it 3 times, press it down for 3 seconds each time that I press it. And I'm going to go ahead and start her up. Starts up great. Let her warm up for a little bit. Once she gets warmed up for a little bit, I'm going to hit the eco throttle and she'll idle down nicely. But you always have to warm up the generator, okay? Say she's warmed up a little bit. Let's see if his eco throttle works. Idles down, nice and quiet. Perfect. So now to shut it off, we just shut it off here at the tank and just wait for it to die out. Just like that. And don't forget to turn the switch to off, so that way you're not draining the battery when you shut it down. All right, to go to natural gas, we just make sure that the selector valve is pointed up. For those that don't have the three-way valve, you will have to readjust the load block to natural gas, and you do that with the feeler gauge that I provide for you. So just right here, hold this threaded rod down, loosen the lock nut, and now you can adjust for natural gas and propane. For here, you have two separate load blocks, so there's no need for adjustment at all. So this is what's nice about the three-way valve. Okay, so to run a natural gas, unhook it from here, plug it into your natural gas meter, turn the valve to on in there, and when you do get the natural gas portion of the kit, notice how there's just the outlet or the quick connect. I won't be able to provide you any of the other additional fittings because there are multiple size pipe fittings. If I send you one, most likely it's going to be wrong. There's no standard. Mine right here says 1.25 inches, okay, and it reduces down to 1 inch. Yours may be different. If I provide you one, you may not be able to use it, so there's no point of me giving you one. It's just a waste of money on your end. You're just better off to find out what size you have, go to the hardware store, get the parts that's according to your size, and at least you have the quick connect to use for the hose, okay? So this is sized accordingly. I can't emphasize how important it is to tap your natural gas right off the meter like I have, upstream from all your appliances, okay? Downstream, you may have interrupted fuel flow, which could cause the generator to hiccup a little bit. Is it going to hurt the generator? No, you may have performance issues, and that's what's going to happen. All right, we're going to start up on natural gas. Fuel selector up for natural gas, or whatever's according to what's written on the side here. Turn on the valve with the on position, and make sure that you hit the prime button long enough, because if you don't, there's still air in the line. If you don't bleed it out by hitting the prime button long enough, the generator is not going to start. It's not going to start on air. So you have to hold the prime button down a little bit longer until you get fuel all primed up and into the engine, and then it'll start. Okay, so you got to hold it down a lot longer. And you got to hear that hiss. If you're not hearing anything, then something's wrong. And go ahead, make sure the eco is off. Crank it over. All right, she starts up. Since she's already warmed up, we're gonna hit the eco mode, see if the eco mode works. Idle smooth, eco. You just saw that light flash. I don't know if you caught that, but this is the carbon monoxide sensor. If you catch the wind just right, it'll shut down this generator, so be careful. If you start the generator, you notice it shut down immediately, and you see that light flashing. Shut down the generator, restart it, and you should be all set to go. And to shut this off, you want to shut it off with the valve over here, just like that. And if you want to go back to propane, take this hose off, plug it in there, do your fuel settings here, and you should be all set to go. All right, guys, I appreciate it. If there's any comments or questions, let me know. I am looking for folks who are doing install videos, so if you want to help me do install videos for this particular generator or any other generator, let me know. I do need help. I can't do this by myself. This video, after editing and everything, it's taking me about a whole week. I'm not great at doing videos, but I just do the best I can. All right, guys, this is available for sale. There are longer hoses if you like. Just hit me up at GRENERGY-US.com. Shoot me an email, give me a phone call. Oops. I want to wrap it up, but I got to answer these most frequently asked questions. And one of them is going to be, all right, I converted this to tri-fuel. How do I run on gasoline? Well, nothing changes. Same procedure as you would running on gasoline. Just cap that off, okay? Go to choke, start the generator, run, fuel off. That's gasoline. Just gotta make sure that has to be capped off. That's it, all right? Also, when you do switch back to propane or natural gas, you have to run the generator dry of gasoline before you switch to propane or natural gas. If you don't do that, the generator is going to run rough, it's going to backfire, it's going to spit a little bit, and then after that it's going to clear up. You're not going to really hurt the generator, but it's not healthy for it, all right? So just make sure that the gasoline tank is empty, just run it dry, and once it's ran dry, then you can go ahead and run a propane and natural gas, okay? And when you do run propane and natural gas, just have it on the run position, keeps the ignition system active, so that way you can use alternative fuels. Quick little tech tip, whether you're on propane, natural gas, or gasoline, you really do want to start the generator with the ESC throttle or eco throttle in the off position. You want the generator to warm up quickly, so if you have this ESC throttle on, the RPMs are lower and the generator is going to chug a little bit. All right, when you have ESC throttle on and you're trying to crank it over, you want to have the RPMs up so that way the generator starts a little bit better and it warms up quicker. All right, so also another thing, if you do have the essential kit, the propane setup, okay, the regulator hangs off the shoulder of the propane tank and the blue cap. Just have it rest on the shoulder of the propane tank and have it hitched right on the bottom of the regulator, so because you want the regulator to stand upright. And if you notice here it says mount up, you want to have it straight as possible. You don't want to have it all the way down here. The manufacturer states that it has to be upright as straight as possible for it to operate properly. And for the SAE flare fitting, it's going to be connected here. That have a cap for it. That will also have a cap. When you're finished using it, put the cap back so there's no dust or anything gets in it. All right, but for the essential kit, it hangs off the propane tank like that. For the other kits, the other option kit's going to have a stand-up bracket. Okay, here is the non-three-way valve. This is a three-way valve. Look, it's very similar. This has it split for the three-way. It's just that one just has one for the load block. Okay. And another thing that I'm gonna get asked a lot is, how does the feeler gauge work if I want to adjust for altitude? So on here we have it set at propane. Okay. So one is sea level, good up to 5,000 feet. If you're at 5,000 feet, adjust it here at number 2. 3 is at 7,500. 4 is at 9,000 plus. Okay, and this is on the propane side. For the natural gas side, flip it over. Sea level, 5,000 feet, 75, 9,000 plus. Okay, and if you don't have the three-way valve, it's not needed. If you want to run propane, adjust the screw here for propane. If you want to run natural gas, back this screw out and then tighten it down on the jam nut and have the fuel settings rest up against the edge of that feeler gauge, and then the little feet rests up against the shoulder of the fitting right here like that. Okay, so you want to have them butt up against this part right here. So when you want to do natural gas, loosen this. This gauges how far the screw has to come out, and that's your fuel settings for propane and natural gas. Very easy. Okay, whereas that, it's already set. You don't have to do anything. This is for folks that are, it's like, hey, I'm only concerned about propane, or I'm only concerned about natural gas. I'm not going to be switching back and forth between the two fuels. I don't need that. You don't have to have this. That works just fine. Remember, in your packet, here's a feeler gauge with the Allen wrench. The Allen wrench goes on this side. It's 4mm size. Oh, it's kind of hard to see that. Right there, it goes in right there. Okay, and in there on my business card, you can see my website, email, and phone number. Okay, if you want to get a hold of me on the weekends, just shoot me a text. Calls can come through on Monday through Friday. If there's an emergency, just try giving me a call. I'll do my best to answer. All right. So with that, the spark plugs, I get other questions about that. I believe in my Predator 9500, it did come with an NGK plug. If yours did not, I'm not sure if the newer ones do or do not have the NGK plugs. Here's a part number for them. Okay. On natural gas, with this plug, the iridium plug seems to run a little bit better when on natural gas. The power output's still the same, but the idle is a little bit smoother, especially when eco mode is used. Here's a part number for that. Okay. For this, in the user guide of the Predator 9500, the gap states that it's 30. I would gap them down to 26 to 27, so 0.026, 0.027 inches. Okay. Iridium plugs do not need to be gapped. All right. So these are good plugs. It's always good to have good plugs when running on alternative fuels. I suggest them, not even just on the 9500s, other generators that I have. I sometimes throw these plugs in because to me they're pretty important, especially if you want these generators to run smoother. They seem to run better on NGK plugs. All right. And lastly, if you run this outside and it drizzles a little bit, not necessarily raining, I recommend that you cover, this is an example, cover the demand regulator, and it keeps it away from slight rain. You don't want to get that thing wet because there's gaskets in that demand regulator that are not waterproof. Okay, once water gets in, you just damage the whole unit. Okay, so when you're outside, this is just an example, a tote, flip it upside down, have it run in there, and you'll be okay. Not only that, it protects it from wind because the demand regulator is vacuum sensitive. And I'll get this out. If you notice, there are vents on the regulator. They're not there to vent any kind of gas. It's just there to reference atmospheric pressure. So this half of the demand regulator gets filled with gas. It's divided by a wall of silicone. So there's a silicone diaphragm in the middle right here, and on this side it just references atmospheric pressure. Any kind of wind that blows past it will disrupt how the demand regulator functions. So if you're operating this on a super windy day, just put a cover over it. Okay, like that. And then you'll notice that the generator runs a little bit more smoother. It's just my 2 cents. All right, guys. This is it. I know I explained a lot, and I hope you find this video very helpful, right? And for the parts, I have this bin here, leftover parts. Don't throw anything away, keep them. I've taken the spark arrestor out. If you're not operating anywhere near dry grass or anywhere near materials that could potentially catch fire, I would suggest not taking the spark arrestor out. Guys, obviously I'm here near the shop. I'm in the paved area, nowhere near brushes or anything like that, so I opted to take the spark arrestor out. Not only that, the generator seems to breathe a little bit better when you take the spark arrestor out. Okay, just stuff like that. Real quick, back to the spark plugs. I do sell these plugs. These are authentic NGK plugs. I do not recommend buying them on eBay or Amazon. There are a lot of fake plugs online. If you have to buy plugs yourself, you can go through me, or you can go to a local auto parts store, and they will carry authentic NGK plugs. So never buy them online. A lot of times they're fake, and sometimes they're cheap because it's too good to be true. okay? I had one instance where a customer used an NGK plug that he bought on Amazon. It looked real. The packaging and everything was exactly the same. One day his generator didn't start. Didn't want to crank over. Took the plug out, trying to investigate what was going on. The electrode, the porcelain part, fell into the cylinder. Destroyed his generator. So it's not worth saving a couple dollars, risking buying stuff online, than to just go to your local auto parts store and get something you know it's going to be authentic and not damage your equipment. Spark plugs are notoriously copied. Oil filters, air filters, fuel pumps, all that, they're all copied and sold online and sold for cheap. And unfortunately, consumers don't even know the difference. And if you go on Google, if you were to Google fake NGK plugs, there's a whole article about them on fake spark plugs and fake parts. Okay, so be careful what you buy. All right, this is it. I'm going to wrap it up. I'm done. This video has been too long.